first and foremost, when the MIA finally gave their guidance, gave the green light for winter sports to be played in districts, kind of what went into play for you guys, Dan, in terms of determining the sports that could be played in Needham?
Sure, Chris. Yeah, that was the past 3 weeks to a month have been very busy in terms of our planning for winter sports. So once the guidelines came out from the EEA and recommendations were given to the MIAA Sport Medicine Committee, the list of approved sports didn't actually come from the MIAA Board of Directors until November 20th, which was the Friday before Thanksgiving week. So that put us in a tough spot, but it gave us a little time to prepare what we were going to present to Dr. Gudikants and Mr. Seacott in terms of what we thought we would be able to safely run in Needham. So based on the guidelines and modifications that were handed down to us from the state, we started to put together a plan in conjunction with other member schools of the Bay State Conference of how we were going to structure our winter season, what sports we were going to sponsor within the conference, and then how we were going to put in place different protocols on a school-to-school basis.
How did the fall one sports season factor into any decisions surrounding winter sports?
I think that the fall sports season was a great measuring stick of what we would be able to do this school year. And as we entered into the beginning of that fall season in September, there were so many unknowns as we were getting back into school, as we were starting sports, to see how we would be able to do it. And I feel that within the group of schools that we played in the fall, collectively, we all felt it was very successful. We were able to conduct a season without any shutdowns based on the procedures and protocols that we had in place. And I think a big part of our success was that everyone within our Needham community played a part and did their job, from the athletes to the coaches to the families, of all doing the right thing and staying home if you didn't feel well and letting the coaches or nurses know if you had symptoms. And I think because of that and people being up front, we were able to, minimize any exposure and run a successful fall athletic program. So I think that was very important as we look towards the winter and the rest of the school year, to show that if we follow the protocols and modifications that are in place, that we can run sports safely.
What are the major differences? Obviously, the fall sports are outdoors, and the big thing, I guess, for winter sports, are they're now indoors. So what are the major differences between fall one and now winter sports?
Right. Obviously, the major difference is that the winter sports are primarily played inside, which presents a whole different set of challenges. And so one of the big differences that you'll see in the winter season is, for the safety of the student athletes, we're not going to be able to allow spectators into our home events. And the reason being is, currently for winter sports, basketball and gymnastics that take place within the high school is not currently allowing any visitors into the building. And so that wasn't going to change for a basketball game after school, because the priority is and will remain having the ability to have students learn in the school buildings. And the administration isn't going to do anything to jeopardize that. The other winter sports that we're going to play, ice hockey, boys and girls swim, those take place at Babson as our home venue. And they also have restrictions that they aren't allowing any spectators into their building. And we're actually, our swim season, we're only allowed to swim in their pool while Babson students are off campus. So as an institution, Babson is also putting in their safety measures, and we have to abide by them as using them as our home venue. So I know it's disappointing to a lot of families that we aren't going to allow spectators. That's something that, as the Bay State Conference, no spectators in any school buildings will be the rule for this foreseeable future. It may be reevaluated later on in the season as we see how things go. But on those lines, thanks to support from our booster club, we were able to get iPad so we can live stream as many home events as possible. And so that's something that we're looking to do. So parents and families and friends will be able to watch the games from the comfort of their own home. I know in talking with you, the Needham channel is also looking to potentially do some live streaming. So we hope to get as many contests covered so that while people won't be able to be in the buildings to watch, they'll still be able to watch the kids play.
Are we looking at a similar schedule and format to winter sports as we saw in fall one? I think the fall one, you guys had the pod format with certain towns around you. Are we looking at the same thing, a little variation? What are we looking at in terms of a schedule?
Yeah, so the fall format with the pods, it went very well. And I think probably the thing that worked the best is that we played the same school twice in the same week. So we played a home and away. So if there had to be any potential contact tracing, which fortunately we didn't have to do this fall, that it would be contained into playing one school in a given week. So we're going to continue that with the winter. So we will play one school in a week. And the main difference is that we have sort of moved away from the small pod and we have expanded it to the rest of the league. So things that the main difference is that potentially Framingham is going to be back in the fold for the winter season, which they didn't participate in the fall season, but they're looking to potentially get back into the winter season. So the pod format that we had in the fall wasn't going to work out the same way that it did with Framingham come back. So we are playing a mix of schools from the Cary and Herget side. And for hockey and basketball, we'll stick with the home and home each week. For gymnastics and swim and dive, they will compete virtually, which was the plan for those sports all along, where you compete at your own venue and then you match scores or match times with the opposing school to determine the winner that way. The other sport that we're running this winter is alpine ski. They'll compete in their league schedule at Blue Hills. The difference there is that they used to go to Ragged Mountain in New Hampshire for 4 or 5 different weekends, but due to state travel guidelines, we'll be unable to do that. So it's going to be a similar format to the fall in terms of playing one school per week, but we've expanded that pod a little bit.
Can you update us on the time, like when games start and within the end date for games?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're set to start our tryouts next Monday, the 14th, and we won't play any contests until after the new year. So that will give each school time to get their feet under them, see how their protocols are working, make sure that we share protocols amongst schools, because every school building has different rules. Every hockey rink has different rules. So we have a schedule in place to kick off that week after New Year's, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done within the league in terms of sharing protocols for each building that people are going to go into. So at that point, we'll start our 6-week schedule, which will run through the start of February vacation. Now, the winter season can run up until the 21st of February, which is the back end of February vacation. So we plan to wrap up our league schedule by the 15th. And then we have that last week open for either potential makeup games, or if things go well and everyone is able to get in their schedule, to look at some type of postseason, probably not a tournament, but maybe matching up teams from different sides of the league to provide an opportunity for a couple more games.
Cool. And I guess so then the last question I have is kind of what I wrap up with you every time. Especially now with they're a little bit more of a break, sort of say, in between kind of the tryouts and the actual games. If you have to give a message to students and families in terms of, to get the game started first off, and then, to have a successful full season, what's your message to everybody out there for Needham?
I think the message is similar to what it was in the fall, that we all have to do our part. And there are a lot of people that are putting in a lot of work for the opportunity for the teams to play. And that goes from school administration to coaches to athletes and families. And everyone needs to do their part so that we can make this winter season successful. And that's something that we have the added not issue, but the holiday break in between the start of tryouts and the games. So I would say that if you are going to travel out of state, and this is something we'll communicate to all of our athletes and families, that when you come back, that everyone needs to follow the state guidelines to either quarantine or provide a negative test. So I think it's extra important, especially as we're moving inside and there are so many different moving pieces, that everyone just needs to continue to do their part. We understand that everyone is tired of this, and we all hope to move back to a new sense of normal very soon. But in the meantime, to be able to complete a successful winter season, everyone needs to continue to do their part.